The Silent Invasion. The Galactic Assembly's grand chamber on New Genesis was everything humanity had imagined about advanced alien civilizations, and then some. Crystalline spires stretched toward the binary stars overhead, their surfaces refracting light in patterns that seemed to dance with the thoughts of the assembled representatives. Admiral Sarah Chen found herself squinting despite her cybernetic visual enhancements. After 15 years as Earth's military liaison to the Assembly, she still wasn't used to the conspicuous displays of technological achievement that the older races seemed to breathe like air. Unlike the other representatives lounging in their anti-gravity meditation pods, Chen sat rigidly in a reinforced chair. New Genesis' perfect 0.8 g gravity felt uncomfortably light to her earthborn muscles. The medical nanites swimming through her bloodstream could compensate for most environmental differences, but they couldn't override millions of years of evolution that had shaped humanity on their deadly homeworld. And so we conclude our discussion on the success of the Cultural Preservation Initiative, announced High Speaker Dixtol, their bioluminescent tendrils rippling with satisfaction. Thanks to our combined efforts, 16 species have been safely guided through their industrial phases without losing their artistic heritage. Chen suppressed a smile. The Assembly had been horrified to learn that humans had lost some of their ancient dance forms during Earth's Industrial Revolution. They couldn't comprehend that humanity considered such losses a natural part of cultural evolution, rather than a tragedy to be prevented. The emergency alert shattered the chamber's tranquility like a hammer through stained glass. Red warning glyphs materialized in the air as the Assembly's AI announced. Multiple quantum signature anomalies detected in the outer rim. 3 colony worlds have ceased all communications. The chamber erupted in a cascade of biochemical panic responses. The float-borne representatives began emanating calming pheromones. The crystalline collective's members vibrated in their distress harmonic. Only Chen remained outwardly calm, her military training kicking in as she accessed her neural link to Earth Command. Preliminary data incoming, the AI continued. Quantum telescopes show unknown entities of non-baryonic composition advancing through. Correction, consuming through assembly space. Entities appear to be converting normal matter into dark matter configurations. The High Speaker's tendrils had gone from their usual azure to a sickly gray. Impossible. The Assembly's borders have been peaceful for 10,000 years. We have no weapons, no defenses. Speaker, Chen interrupted, rising from her chair. The movement drew every alien eye in the chamber. Most species found human motion unsettling. Too quick, too purposeful, too predatory. Earth maintains a defense fleet. We've been called paranoid for it, but we've never forgotten the lessons our homeworld taught us. Let us help. You don't understand, whispered a representative of the Silicon Sages, their crystalline form trembling. These entities, they're converting matter itself. Our most advanced science can't explain how they're doing it. What can your primitive weapons do against something like that? Chen's smile was all teeth, another expression that made her alien colleagues uncomfortable. With respect, what you call primitive, we call tested. Earth weapons don't rely on quantum manipulation or dark energy. We use kinetic force, fusion reactions, and good old-fashioned explosions. Sometimes the simplest solution is the most effective. New data flowed through her neural link. The unknown entities had already consumed a volume of space larger than Earth's entire solar system. They were converting everything in their path, planets, stars, even the vacuum itself, into some kind of dark matter configuration that human sensors couldn't properly detect. But Chen noticed something the panicking assembly members had missed. The entities were following predictable patterns, like a natural force rather than an intelligent enemy. And if there was one thing humans understood, it was surviving natural forces that wanted to kill them. Speaker, Chen said, her voice cutting through the chaos. Earth requests emergency executive authority to coordinate the Assembly's response to this threat. We're not promising victory, but humans have spent our entire evolutionary history fighting forces that should have destroyed us. It's time to show the galaxy why Earth is classified as a death world. The speaker's tendrils had shifted to the deep purple of decision-making. The Assembly has not granted emergency powers in 7,000 years. Our entire civilization is founded on peaceful consensus. And while you seek consensus, Chen replied, 3 worlds have already been lost. Earth isn't asking for political power. We're offering to do what we do best, fight impossible odds and survive. The quantum sensors screamed new warnings. A 4th world had gone dark. Chen watched the Assembly representatives panic deepen. They were brilliant, advanced, peaceful beings who had created wonders humanity could barely comprehend. But they had evolved on gentle worlds. They had never learned the lessons that Earth's gravity, weather, predators, and disasters had carved into human DNA. The speaker's tendrils finally shifted to the white of resolution. Emergency authority granted to Earth's military command, with all speed and force of Assembly law. Save us, Admiral Chen. Show us what the children of your death world can do. Chen was already issuing orders through her neural link as warning klaxons echoed through the chamber. Humanity had spent generations being viewed as primitive by the galaxy's peaceful races. Their ships were too heavily armored, their weapons too focused on destruction, their minds too quick to consider military solutions. Now those same peaceful races were turning to humanity's primitive warriors as their last hope. Chen thought about Earth, beautiful, deadly Earth, where everything from the weather to the wildlife had tried to kill her ancestors. Those ancestors hadn't just survived, they'd thrived, turning nature's challenges into stepping stones toward the stars. Time to show the galaxy what real survivors could do. Warriors among stars. The command center beneath Mount Kilimanjaro hummed with activity. Earth's military headquarters had been carved into the ancient volcanoes centuries ago, when humanity first realized that any surface installation could be detected from orbit. The mountain's natural magnetic fields and dense rock helped shield their quantum communications from interference or surveillance. Admiral Chen's hologram stood at the center of the war room, her image flickering slightly from the 15-light-year transmission delay. The situation is worse than initial reports suggested, she said, her voice tight. These entities aren't just consuming matter. They're rewriting the fundamental laws of physics in the spaces they convert. We're looking at localized changes to the cosmological constants themselves. General Maya Rodriguez, Earth Defense Force's highest-ranking field commander, studied the tactical displays. The dark matter entities appeared as holes in space, regions where their most advanced sensors simply stopped working. But their movement patterns were becoming clear. They're following the path of least resistance, Rodriguez observed, like water flowing downhill, but through dimensions we can barely detect. That's why they're ignoring defended systems, not out of fear, but because our ships and stations represent energy barriers in their path. Exactly, Chen's hologram nodded. The Assembly's peaceful worlds are perfect targets. Minimal defense installations, no planetary shield systems, populations completely unused to crisis response. The entities just flow right through them. Rodriguez smiled grimly. Then we'll give them something they can't flow around. Authorization requested to activate Protocol Prometheus. The other generals in the room stirred uneasily. Prometheus was a theoretical defensive strategy that had been deemed too aggressive even for war games. It involved using Earth's most powerful weapons not against enemy forces, but against the fabric of space-time itself. Chen's hologram flickered as she accessed the classified files. The Assembly granted us emergency powers, but we'd be permanently altering the quantum structure of entire star systems. Better altered than consumed, Rodriguez countered. These entities are following physical laws, even if they're laws we barely understand. So let's change the laws. Create cosmic rapids and waterfalls they can't navigate. We've spent centuries being called primitive for sticking to brute force solutions. Time to show the galaxy why sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. The tactical displays updated with new data. 2 more Assembly worlds had gone dark. The entities were accelerating, learning, adapting to conventional defense strategies. but they'd never encountered anything like what humanity was about to unleash. "Authorization granted," Chen said finally. "But we'll need more than weapons. Select your task force, General. Find me soldiers who understand what it means to fight forces of nature." Rodriguez was already reviewing personnel files. The kind of people they needed wouldn't be found in traditional military units. They needed survivors, adapters, people who had stared into nature's fury and learned to stare back. Dr. Kira Wong appeared first on her list, a climatologist who had spent 5 years living in the eye of a permanent hurricane on Venus, studying how to terraform the planet by manipulating its storm systems. Her understanding of fluid dynamics in extreme conditions would be essential for predicting how the entities would react to their plans. Next was Captain Marcus Jackson, whose ship had survived 3 weeks trapped in Jupiter's Great Red Spot. He'd learned to use the massive storm's energy patterns to power his engines after his reactor failed. If anyone could navigate the spatial distortions they were about to create, it was him. Technical Sergeant Maria Patel had earned her place by developing new shielding technologies in the Martian dust storms. She understood better than anyone how to protect ships and crews when the very environment was trying to tear them apart. And finally, Dr. Viktor Petrov, the quantum physicist who'd proposed Protocol Prometheus in the first place. He'd been called mad for suggesting they could weaponize space-time itself. Now his madness might be humanity's best hope. "Task force assembled," Rodriguez reported. "I'm naming it Project Typhoon. Because like our ancestors who learned to survive Earth's deadliest storms, we're going to learn to survive this one." Chen's hologram nodded. "The assembly races think they failed because they're too peaceful. But that's not it. They failed because they tried to fight this threat like it was an enemy army. We know better. You don't fight a hurricane or an earthquake. You survive it. You adapt to it. You learn its patterns and use them against it." The members of Project Typhoon were already being summoned to Mount Kilimanjaro. Each of them had proven themselves against the deadliest forces nature could throw at a human. Now they would face something even more primal, the fundamental forces of the universe itself. "One more thing," Chen added as the tactical displays updated again. "The assembly scientists have detected quantum echoes, suggesting these entities might be conscious in some way. Not intelligent like us, but aware. They might be able to learn, to recognize patterns." Rodriguez studied the profiles of her chosen team. "Good, because so can we. That's what humans do best. We learn, we adapt, and we survive. Let's show these cosmic horrors why Earth is called a death world." Operation Stormbreak. The Helios-class destroyer Maelstrom hung in the void at the edge of the Vega system, its massive hull bristling with weapons that the assembly races had once called barbaric. Captain Marcus Jackson stood on the bridge, watching the tactical displays with the same focused calm he'd maintained during his weeks trapped in Jupiter's storm. The dark matter entities were approaching, their presence marked by the gradual disappearance of background stars. "Final calculations complete," Dr. Wong reported from her station. Her fingers danced across holographic controls, making microscopic adjustments to their plan. "The stellar mechanics model confirms it. If we hit the star's magnetic field at precisely the right point, we can create a cascading resonance effect, like triggering an avalanche, but with plasma." Dr. Petrov's voice crackled over the comm from his position in the engine room. "Quantum field generators at maximum capacity. Remember, we're not just creating a solar flare, we're going to use it to tear a hole in space-time itself." Jackson nodded, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to process the stream of data flowing through his neural link. The plan was audacious, combining humanity's understanding of natural disasters with their most advanced technology. They weren't trying to fight the dark matter entities directly. They were going to change the battlefield itself. "Enemy contact in 5 minutes," Sergeant Patil announced, her hand steady on the shield controls. "Their conversion effect is maintaining previous patterns, like watching a flood flow downhill through extra dimensions. All ships, battle positions," Jackson ordered. Project Typhoon's fleet was small by assembly standards, just 5 destroyers and their support vessels. But each ship was crewed by humans who had survived the worst their deadly homeworld could throw at them. They understood, deep in their bones, how to ride out nature's fury. The entities emerged from the darkness like oil spreading across water, their non-baryonic forms defying normal physics. The space behind them was simply gone, converted into something human sensors couldn't comprehend. But Wang had spent years studying how hurricane winds followed the path of least resistance. She could predict where the entities would flow. Initiating Protocol Prometheus, Petrov announced. Quantum field generators at critical threshold. Ready on your mark. Jackson took a deep breath, feeling the familiar weight of command. All ships, execute attack pattern tsunami. Dr. Wang, light the fuse. The Maelstrom's main gun fired, its hypervelocity round carrying a payload of exotic particles designed by Petrov. The shot struck Vega's chromosphere at precisely the point Wang had calculated, the impact rippling through the star's magnetic field. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the star screamed. A solar flare erupted from Vega's surface, but this was no natural phenomenon. The exotic particles had created a quantum resonance cascade, transforming the plasma into something that could interact with dark matter itself. The flare twisted in impossible ways as it encountered the entities, dragging them into normal space-time. Direct hit, Patel reported, her voice tight with concentration, as she managed the shields against the stellar forces they'd unleashed. The entities are being forced into our phase of reality. They're trying to flow around the disruption, but the quantum wake is too strong. Now for Phase 2, Jackson ordered. All ships, execute attack pattern earthquake. Let's show them what happens when they fight on our terms. The human fleet moved with practiced precision, their formations designed to create gravitational resonances that would amplify the quantum disruption. They weren't just fighting with weapons, they were weaponizing the fundamental forces of the universe itself. The entities reacted, trying to retreat from the cascading waves of altered spacetime. But Wang had predicted this too, drawing on her experience with fluid dynamics in extreme conditions. They're moving exactly as modeled, she reported. The spatial distortions are hurting them right where we want them. Energy spike. Petrov's voice held a note of triumph. The quantum resonance is reaching critical mass. 3, 2, 1. Reality cracked. The combined forces they'd unleashed, the modified solar flare, the gravitational waves, the quantum fields, all converged at a single point in space. For a fraction of a second, the laws of physics themselves broke down. When they reasserted themselves, a portion of the dark matter entities had been converted back to normal matter, their impossible forms transformed into clouds of plasma and elementary particles. Partial success, Wang reported, already analyzing the data. We've proven they can be affected by altered physical laws. But the energy cost, we can't repeat this on a large scale. Jackson watched the remaining entities retreat, flowing away from the disrupted space like water finding a new path. They'd won their first victory, but he could see the larger challenge ahead. The entities were learning, adapting to their tactics even as they executed them. Send all data to Admiral Chen, he ordered. We've proven Prometheus works, but we need to find a way to make it more efficient. These things adapt to physical laws, so we need to be ready to adapt faster. As the fleet regrouped, Jackson thought about Earth's history. How many times had humanity faced forces they couldn't possibly defeat, only to find ways to survive, to adapt, to turn nature's power to their advantage? The dark matter entities might be able to rewrite physics itself, but they were about to learn that humans had spent their entire evolution rewriting the rules of what was possible. Begin calculating coordinates for the next target, he ordered. These things think they can consume our galaxy. Let's show them why humans are called the universe's ultimate survivors. The adaptive edge. The Mount Kilimanjaro Command Center had transformed in the weeks since Operation Stormbreak. Holographic displays showed the movements of dark matter entities across hundreds of star systems, their patterns growing more complex with each engagement. Dr. Kira Wong stood before the central tactical table, her eyes reflecting the dance of quantum probability calculations. "They're not just adapting," she explained to the assembled command staff. "They're evolving. Each time we create a quantum disruption, the surviving entities incorporate that experience into their fundamental structure, like bacteria developing antibiotic resistance, but at a cosmic scale." General Rodriguez studied the latest battle reports. Project Typhoon had successfully defended 3 more assembly systems, but each victory came at a greater cost. The entities were learning to predict their tactics, flowing around quantum disruptions before they could fully form. "Show me the pattern analysis," Rodriguez ordered. The holographic display shifted, showing the entities' movement trajectories over time. What had started as simple paths of least resistance had evolved into complex, almost organic patterns. Dr. Petrov, joining via quantum link from the maelstrom, pointed to a particular sequence. "They've started creating scout formations. Small groups probe our defenses, deliberately triggering our quantum weapons to study their effects. They're not just adapting reactively anymore. They're actively experimenting." "Good," said Technical Surgeon Patel, her voice tired but determined. She'd spent the last 48 hours redesigning shield systems to handle the entity's newest attacks. "That means they can learn. And anything that can learn can be taught." The assembled officers turned to her, and Patel stepped up to the tactical display. Her time surviving Martian dust storms had taught her that sometimes the best defense was to work with natural forces rather than against them. "We've been thinking about this wrong," she continued. "We're still trying to fight them like they're an enemy army. But Dr. Wong said it herself. They're more like a force of nature, so let's treat them that way. On Earth, we don't try to stop hurricanes or earthquakes. We build systems that can channel their energy, redirect it, use it." Wong's eyes lit up with understanding. "Like how Venice doesn't try to stop the tides, it works with them. Or how modern buildings in seismic zones are designed to sway with earthquakes rather than resist them." "Exactly," Patel nodded. "These entities convert normal matter to dark matter. What if instead of trying to prevent that conversion, we tried to control it, guide it, maybe even use it?" The room fell silent as the implications sank in. It was an audacious proposal. Instead of fighting the fundamental force that made these entities so dangerous, they would try to harness it. The risk was enormous, but humans had built their civilization on taking exactly these kinds of risks. "The assembly races would call this insane," Rodriguez said finally. "They'd say we're trying to control forces that no living being should touch." She smiled. "Fortunately, humans have a long history of doing exactly that. Dr. Petrov, can you modify the quantum field generators to create controlled conversion zones?" The physicist was already running calculations. "It's possible. Risky, but possible. Instead of trying to force the entities back into normal spacetime, we could create paths of partial conversion, like building fire breaks to control the wildfire." "Do it," Rodriguez ordered. "Captain Jackson, coordinate with Dr. Wong. I want new battle plans that treat these entities like natural disasters to be managed, rather than enemies to be destroyed. Surgeon Patel, you'll work with Petrov on the containment systems. If we're going to dance with cosmic forces, we need to make sure we don't lose our partners." As the team dispersed to their tasks, Admiral Chen's hologram appeared in the center of the room. "The entities have changed course," she reported without preamble. "They're no longer following simple expansion patterns. Multiple groups are converging on a single target." She paused. "They're heading for Earth." Rodriguez felt a chill run down her spine, but also a fierce pride. The entities had identified humanity as their greatest threat and their greatest challenge. They were learning, adapting, evolving. But so were humans. It's what they did best. "Let them come," she said. "Earth taught us how to survive everything the universe could throw at us. Time to pass those lessons on to our new friends." Throughout human history, every force of nature that threatened to destroy them had ultimately been turned to their advantage. They'd harnessed fire, tamed the seas, split the atom, and reached for the stars. Now they faced perhaps their greatest challenge: cosmic entities that could rewrite the laws of physics themselves. But humans had spent millions of years rewriting the rules of what was possible. They'd evolved on a world that had tried to kill them at every turn, and they'd turned each challenge into a stepping stone toward the stars. The dark matter entities were about to learn why Earth's children were the most dangerous survivors in the galaxy. Evolution's children. Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, its surface scarred by the very forces that had shaped humanity into what they'd become. Hurricanes swirled in the atmosphere. Volcanoes dotted the continents, and tectonic plates continued their eternal dance beneath the oceans. Now, humanity's cradle faced its greatest test. The Maelstrom's bridge was silent as Captain Jackson watched the dark matter entities approach. They moved differently now, with purpose and coordination that seemed almost biological. The void behind them wasn't just empty. It was transformed, converted into something that existed beyond normal space-time. Final preparations complete, Dr. Wong reported. The climatologist had spent the last week working with Earth's weather control systems, preparing them for something they were never designed to do. The atmospheric matrix is ready. We've got hurricanes positioned at every major convergence point. Quantum field generators modified and synchronized, Dr. Petrov added. His voice was steady despite the unprecedented forces they were about to unleash. We're not just creating controlled conversion zones anymore. We're going to turn Earth's entire magnetosphere into a quantum resonance chamber. Technical Surgeon Patel's hands flew across her controls, making final adjustments to the planetary shield grid, all defensive systems integrated with the new protocols. Earth's natural electromagnetic field has been augmented. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Admiral Chen's hologram appeared on the bridge, joined by General Rodriguez from Mount Kilimanjaro. The assembly races are watching, Chen said. They still think we're mad for trying this. But they've also never seen anything like what humanity can do when backed into a corner. The entities began their approach, flowing through space like living darkness. But this time, instead of trying to resist their advance, Earth's defenses reached out to welcome them. The planetary shield grid pulsed with patterns that mimicked the entity's own quantum signatures. Like calls to like, Wong murmured, watching her displays. Just as every hurricane has an eye, every force of nature has a pattern. Even these things. The first entity made contact with Earth's outer defensive sphere. For a moment, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, exactly as planned, the quantum resonance took hold. The entity's dark matter conversion effect didn't stop, but it changed, guided by the carefully crafted fields humanity had prepared. It's working, Petrov exclaimed. The conversion is following the paths we created, like a river following channels we've dug. More entities joined the first, their combined power building, as they encountered humanity's trap. Earth's magnetosphere began to glow with impossible colors as normal space and dark matter space interacted in ways never before seen in the galaxy. Now, Rodriguez ordered, initiate Protocol Genesis. Every weather control station on Earth activated simultaneously. The carefully positioned hurricanes spun faster, their enormous energy feeding into the quantum matrix. Volcanoes erupted on precise schedules, their geothermal power adding to the building resonance. Even the planet's plate tectonics played their part, their natural frequencies amplified and directed upward. The entities found themselves caught in a symphony of natural forces, each one guided by human intelligence and enhanced by human technology. They tried to adapt, to evolve new patterns, but humanity had spent millions of years learning from their deadly homeworld. They could adapt faster. They're trying to retreat, Wong reported, watching the entities attempt to flow away from the quantum trap. But Earth's gravity well has them now, and we've turned it into something they've never encountered before. The space around Earth rippled as normal matter and dark matter reached a new equilibrium. The entities weren't being destroyed. They were being changed, their fundamental nature altered by exposure to the concentrated essence of a death world, and the survivors it had created. Final phase, Jackson ordered. All ships, execute attack pattern evolution. The human fleet moved in perfect coordination, their ships' quantum fields adding to the resonance. The entities trapped in Earth's gravity well began to transmute, their dark matter forms taking on characteristics of normal spacetime without losing their unique properties. Quantum signatures stabilizing, Petrov reported in awe. They're hybridizing, becoming something that exists in both states simultaneously. The transformed entities hung in space around Earth, their new forms shimmering with both darkness and light. Through the quantum fields connecting them, humanity could sense something new awakening. Awareness, understanding, recognition. They're conscious, Wong whispered. Truly conscious now. And they recognize us as kin. Admiral Chen's hologram smiled. Of course they do. We've shown them what Earth taught us, that the most powerful forces in the universe aren't those that destroy, but those that adapt, that change, that evolve. We didn't defeat them. We helped them become something new, just as Earth did for us. The remaining untransformed entities across the galaxy began to withdraw, but not in retreat. They moved with purpose, as if responding to a call from their transformed brethren. Humanity had done more than save the galaxy. They had created a bridge between two fundamentally different forms of existence. In the Assembly's grand chamber, the peaceful races watched in wonder as the crisis they'd thought would destroy them became instead a moment of cosmic evolution. They had called Earth a death world, its people primitive and violent. Now they understood. Humanity's true strength wasn't in their ability to fight, but in their ability to transform any challenge into an opportunity for growth. The transformed entities began to communicate through quantum fluctuations, sharing their new understanding with their unchanged kin. Earth had changed them, just as it had changed every life form that had ever faced its challenges. And in doing so, humanity had proven once again why they were the galaxy's ultimate survivors, not because they were the strongest or the most advanced, but because they could take any force, any obstacle, any enemy, and turn it into a stepping stone towards something greater. Earth continued its eternal dance around its star, its hurricanes and earthquakes, and volcanoes carrying on as they had for billions of years. But now its children had taken those lessons to the stars, teaching the very cosmos itself that the greatest power in the universe wasn't destruction or preservation. It was adaptation, evolution, and the endless capacity to become something new.